Oh, Jesus, that about came off. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang.
Beautiful.
Kicking off 2025 with a vengeance. Boom. Boom. Beats are out.
Actively seeking a sock sponsor for 2025.
Yeah.
Preferably in the gray or the black category.
I really need it. Dude, these Nike socks, that's all I wear all the time. I've had them forever. Did I ever tell this story about these socks?
Oh, dude, whatever you're wearing, they're not as nice as these socks right here.
I'm sure they're not, but hear me out a second.
I used to wear those socks.
These fit my feet.
Yeah.
And I have a really awkwardly sized foot. It's hard to find socks that actually fit. 9 times out of 10, the heel.
Yeah, actually, this brand might not make a size for you.
No, I guarantee you they don't.
Yeah.
They don't make Sasquatch. So, but I found these socks finally, I think it was 10 years ago. And I got so excited about it because I'd never had a pair of socks that fit my foot right. You know, when you got a big foot, life sucks for footwear. And so I did a quick search looking for that sock, and I found somebody selling a lot on eBay. There was a whole entire giant box of brand new sealed packs of them. I'm sure it was like a store wasn't going to carry that size anymore, and they had a whole case of them left. I bought the whole case. I am halfway through that case. It's been like 10 years.
Yeah, you're a bulk buying expert.
Well, when I find something I like, I'm not afraid to commit.
No, me neither. Yeah, let's pop that top.
Happy 2025, son.
2025. About to pop that top. Not my favorite kind of top to pop, but pretty good top.
Well, since we're on the subject, what is your favorite kind of top to pop? Ooh, excuse me.
Those that are covering the heavies.
That's funny. That's funny. Oh, man.
Yeah. The heavies.
Do you like the heavies?
Them big old sweater biscuits.
Obviously, from my tastes, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, been working out like a beast.
Oh,
that video turned out awesome.
Operation Jacked and Tan is well underway.
I don't know if
I'm gonna show the boys my abs here in a couple weeks.
I don't know if I've had the chance to
No,
talk to you about it
you
much,
split
but
town, man.
I watched that after it came out when I was down in Nashville.
Yeah.
And it turned out really good.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it was done well. Everything flowed together well, but I personally, got a little emotional when you and Dan were working out. And I guess in kind of like a weird sort of way, just being honest, I feel like the child of you guys, and I was always just trying to keep the family together. That was an emotional moment for me, you know.
Yeah.
That tugged, and I guarantee you, there's a lot of people out there that felt like that, and it was really good. Sorry,
Thanks.
It had a lot of a good kind of emotion in it. And now that I watched my own part in it, I probably felt like that was a little more than it needed to be because I don't think it quite flowed with the rest of the feel of it. It was almost a little too ridiculous. And you told me to be, but still.
You're usually supposed to be the ascent of it, you know, so that was good. No, I was happy with it. Hopefully it was fun for all you guys to watch because, you know, you all were different parts and nobody really got to see what the other person did either, you know, because I showed up, filmed with you. We did the archery segment. Jake was there, but you and Jake didn't get to see the lifting segment.
Yep.
And none of you guys got to see the kind of the transition pieces that Jason and I did and the voiceover, you know. So, yeah, it was fun. You know, every year I try to do something like that at the end of the year, just something that's meaningful. And, it was fun. I was happy with how it turned out. Yeah.
You should be. It was really good.
Yeah, it was a good response. Yeah, and every time you do things like that, you learn something new, and it's a lot, you know, when you really start saying, hey, I want to put something really highly polished together. I mean, you got to have it, you can't do it on your own, you know. No. You can in a way, but to really do it with a team, it's, you know, you need to, coordinate the people, and everybody needs to kind of be on the same page, and it's just, yeah. And then, you know, you get a vision. I get a vision in my head for what I hope to come out, but that's hard to communicate too, you know. And then sometimes that changes or molds as it goes. So yeah, it's cool. Yeah. But But also, I was pretty pumped. I don't think a lot of people, I mean, definitely some people, I had some people reach out, but I don't think as many people realized the weight that I was moving in that video.
Yeah, I was a lot.
It was a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was freaking exhausted at
Yeah,
the end. I didn't know how
I'm
many I would
rethinking
get.
on who'd win our race thing after seeing that. I'm like, oh man.
I
mean, I got strong legs, but damn.
No, I got them Dutch legs, and I've been working them out hard for a long time. And yeah, it was a lot. I told the guys, like, I don't know how many I'm going to get. You know, I'm going to hope for 20. It could be anywhere from 15. It could be maybe even up near 30. And yeah, it's a lot. Like, and when I did that final rep, like, my body gave out, you know.
Yeah,
but
no,
I
you could see
wasn't
that.
like dropping the weight. My body
Yeah,
gave
you
out.
gave
I
out.
couldn't have got one more out.
You could
so.
see that, yeah.
It's cool. And I've done stuff like that in the past. And there's like a weird, in CrossFit, they call it going to a dark place. And that's kind of what it is. There's just a weird gear that you can hit where it's just like, you just go till you can't. And it's almost kind of scary knowing what it is when you're going into it, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a level of fear and intimidation in it.
Yeah.
For sure.
You don't want, nobody wants to push that hard.
No.
So it was fun.
No.
Yeah, but thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. I like that you do a year-end video like that every year because it's kind of like it's almost like a culmination of your year and a highlight of where you are, where you're at, where you're going.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me wish I did something like that periodically because it looks really cool.
And it's easy to get in
I probably couldn't pull it off nearly as good,
well, you
but
should just try, yeah.
I'm not afraid to try. That's for sure.
It's easy to get in the Ferris wheel of weekly content. You know, it's like, hey, this is a weekly content piece. I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
But you're not really pushing your limits, you know.
All right, next year, end of the year, I'll make one too.
Yeah, you should.
Because I've had a pretty significant year in my life.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be huge for the program.
But I'll probably ask you for some help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help. I like talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah.
I know you do. Oh.
Yeah, it is going to be a huge year for the program. There's a lot of moving parts. Particularly one part that's moving right now is the Lions through the playoffs.
Yeah, buddy. I didn't get to see
Oh, you didn't get to watch this last weekend?
No, I didn't.
That's because they weren't playing. They got that bye week.
Yeah,
dude.
no, I mean the week before though.
Okay.
I didn't even get to see the week before, but
Yeah.
I watched a little bit of the playoffs this last weekend. So we had Dan and I were hunting down in Texas, and they didn't have they had internet, but they didn't have a TV hooked up with a device. So the only thing I could do is pull it up on my tablet and plug it into the TV. So I ended up watching the what was the Sunday night game that ended like on a field goal that kicked in. It was the
Redskins.
Yeah, they're not
the
called
Commanders.
that. You racist. Yeah, the Commanders, and the Buccaneers, and the Commanders win as time runs out on a field goal that hits the upright but goes in. Now, if you watch doinks, or that's what they call a doink, right?
Yeah.
They rarely go in.
Never. They never go in.
It's rare. Almost always, if that kicker hits the upright, it's going out. It's not going in. I think that might be the first one I remember seeing that went in off a doink. And it was a hard doink, too. It went dong. You could hear it in the sound. Like, how did that go in? That should have been overtime. Good out of bonus.
Yeah, they probably haven't won a playoff game since they were the Redskins. I think it's been like 9 years or something.
Yeah.
And I've kind of lived on an island. I haven't followed the whole NFL this year. So, you know, me watching a lot of these teams, I'm watching a lot of them for the first time. And
Me too.
They're athletic. You know, they were athletic. Their quarterback was really athletic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Texans quarterback was athletic. He impressed me.
I saw a stat they threw up on that game that was his name. God, shoot, I just drew a blank. I had it. And then you said Texans, and I thought of C.J. Stroud. It's Jaden Daniels. Yeah, that's the quarterback of the Commanders. And that guy has, in the fourth quarter, has like 12 touchdowns and 1 interception or something like that, or some ridiculous number like that. And they're a 12-win team for the rookie quarterback. And they were 4 wins last year or something like that. Like, that's an impressive turnaround in a year.
It also
and a new head coach, new staff, a whole bit.
It didn't surprise me that Minnesota and Darnold shit the bed either. I think they saw the week prior a little bit of a recipe to shake Darnold up, get to him, get pressure on him. And, yeah, he just didn't look like a mature quarterback.
What's funny about that is that's 2 games, right? Those 2 games probably cost Sam Darnold $50 million a year.
Oh, yeah, huge.
Because he's a free agent after that, right?
Yeah.
And he looked like one of the MVP of the league up until then, right? and he's in a contract year. Like, you couldn't ask for a better position to be in as a free agent quarterback to play your ass off and have people chanting MVP every time you step on the field, and then you can't score a touchdown in the last 2 games. That's bad.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was going to be really hard for the Vikings to let him go because they have J.J. McCarthy, right? They drafted him like 5th overall or something like that, right? So they've got a guy that they thought was going to be a really good quarterback that got injured in the preseason, and Sam Darnold comes in and takes over and plays like MVP caliber. So I would say he's probably not back in Minnesota next year, and he's probably, initial guess, he might be on a 1-year deal with somebody again to try to prove that he can do it. And maybe that 1-year deal is the Seattle Seahawks, and they get rid of Geno Smith because Geno Smith is terrible.
Yeah.
Please get rid of Geno Smith.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad spot for Darnold to land, really.
Well, they have a talented team in general. Like, they're, for the most part, they're missing a couple pieces, but Geno most of the year led the league in interceptions. Like, he was leading the league in yards, but he was also leading the league in interceptions. And that's traditionally, if you're leading in both categories, your team's not that good.
Right.
That means you're probably playing from behind and you're probably taking risks. And I've said this to, I don't know how many people I said it to in the last 2 years, is Geno can't get past the first progression. Whatever his number one guy is, if that guy's open, we got a good play. If he's not, it's shit. Like, it's bad.
Who do you think comes out of the AFC?
Oh, man.
I seen this crazy stat that all the teams that had scored 30 points or less, what their record was, Kansas City was something like double-digit wins, and everybody else was like low single-digit wins.
Yeah.
So Kansas City is winning games by small margin and low-scoring games, and I just can't see that making its way through the playoffs.
Can I take a hot take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Kansas City is winning games with the referees.
Yeah.
Dude, how many games did they win this year where the referees called the game?
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if Buffalo beat them by 2 scores. I could see that happening.
It's hard to bet against Kansas City because some way, somehow, they managed to get out of it. It's feeling like Deflate Gate Patriots kind of stuff. Like, how in the world does this keep happening? But maybe they're 3 years. They're on a 3-year three-peat, right? Maybe they're just bored until the playoffs start.
That could be.
It could very well be because, like, look at the Ravens. They struggled, and then they get into the playoffs and just freaking steamroll Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Wasn't even close. And Pittsburgh looked pretty good.
Well, as a heavily weighted Lions fan, their last 5 or 6 games, the fact that they won and won most of them, their defense was incredibly beat up. And the fact that they beat Minnesota
They looked good on defense.
In a big way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they get healthier, man, I could potentially see the team that beat Minnesota winning the Super Bowl. But if they get 1 or 2 more pieces back, including Aiden Hutchinson and maybe the final game.
Do you know what's sad?
It could be, yeah.
Do you know what's sad
about
that statement you just made about the team that beat Minnesota?
Yeah.
Realize that's the Rams, and they're in the Seahawks division, and we both have the same record.
Yeah.
And the only reason the Rams got in is because they beat the Seahawks. The game they played against the Seahawks, they were winning for a minute.
Yeah.
And won the game. That one little thing.
The fact that Minnesota had to have 14 wins and play as the 5 seed?
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. But
But
look what happened. They lost.
I know.
And with the exception of the Commanders, every home team won.
Yeah. Everyone
won. And there was a couple where the records were uneven, where the away team had a better record. So maybe there's some validity to that they deserve it. I don't know. But anyway, we're talking about football for 5 or 7 minutes. People are going to be pissed. I turned this on for archery. This is bullshit.
Yeah. Well, it is lion season, and I'm gonna revel in it because
hey, if the Lions win the Super Bowl,
this.
are you going to go lion hunting?
I don't know. I'll do.
You should go lion hunting. I think you'd be good at that.
I'll do something wild.
I'd like to see you on the back of a snowmobile chasing down doggies.
That kind of lion.
That kind of lion hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because are you a Residente yet?
Close. Yeah.
When do you hit the Residente?
It's like 2 months.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, lion season. No, might be kind of over with at that point.
Yeah. Dang, it's okay. In due time. Anyway, you were down in Texas, and Like, describe why you went down there. What were you up to?
Well, originally, Dan invited me on a deer hunt, and I was looking at my schedule of when that was. I'd originally bought tickets from Spokane to San Antonio for that hunt. We were going to go up to Austin and do a little spiel with archery country up there, and set up and fit a bow for the guy's place that we're hunting on, his wife. She didn't have a bow yet, so I got her a bow, put it together, helped her sight it in a little bit, gave her a little bit of a lesson, and then I was going to see if I could get into the Mothership and watch a comedy club there. I've always wanted to see Rogan perform. I've never seen him live, and I've asked him a few times if I was in the area. He's like, "Hey, are you performing over this date to this date?" And the last time I'd asked him, he said, "Yes, he was on this day and this day," and one of those days lined up when I was going to be up there. So I asked, I was like, "Hey, is there any chance I can get in? Like, I'll gladly pay, you know." But he's like, "Oh yeah, no worries. Just let me know how many people are coming," which is cool. So I got kind of excited about that because I've always wanted to see him live, and did the spiel with archery country. All that worked out good. Went to Terry Black's. And
did we go to Terry Black's?
No, Joe originally when we were up there, it's in Austin, it's not in San Antonio.
Okay.
We were originally, I was like, "Hey, we could run up there, do that, and then for dinner, and then go to the club." And he's like, "Dude, you won't get in." It's like, the line's ridiculous, you'll never get in. I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, and when we went, it was an odd time. It was like 2:00, right? And the parking lot was full, but a car would pull out, and another one would pull into it, and a car would pull out, another one would pull into it, and we were only in the parking lot for like 4 minutes, and got a place to park, went in, ordered some food, and somebody commented on because I made a little reel about it, that's not that good, and there's way better places. I thought it was the best barbecue I'd ever had in my life.
Yeah, and you're a meat man.
Now granted, I haven't like scoured the earth for barbecue, but I do like barbecue. I've had barbecue a lot, and everything we ate was good. Like, really good. Like, every piece of meat we tried was really good. So
what did you order?
Comment down below on who is better, because I will, if I'm ever in an area, I will love to put it to the test. Because man, I don't know how you could make tastier meat. It was so good. So I had a little thing of pork ribs, a jalapeno cheese sausage, and brisket is what I ordered. Dan got a beef rib, which was like a fucking caveman, and it tasted just like brisket, but juicier. It was really good, which when I've had beef ribs before, I didn't like them very much. I mean, they were okay, but they weren't great. I would definitely order that again. He couldn't finish it. He's like, "Here, eat some of it. It's really good." And, they sampled a little bit of turkey. The frickin' turkey was incredible.
That's
turkey's hard to be like when you're in a barbecue place and everything's like really moist and juicy, which that's what I can say heavily. Like, it was just super, like, how is this so juicy? It's unbelievable. It's really good. I will definitely go back there. I made plans with Tyler, the owner of Archery Country. I said I'd come back down again in a little while and see if I can hit that, and offered to take me hunting. He's got a couple ranches he can go on. So it's like, cool. Yeah, I'll come down. You bet. Announced that we were going to be there like last second. And there was a decent amount of people there that wanted to say hi and whatnot. Cool. And I ended up giving out like 6 mini lessons. I couldn't get out of the practice range because the next person was like, "Oh, can you just come look at this one thing?" And I'm like, "All right, cool." You know, and everybody's in the car waiting for me. I felt bad. Like, I have a hard time saying no. I like to help people. You know, it tugs at my heartstrings personally. But yeah, that went great. And then anyway, we go to the Mothership, and they have an upstairs area, the little balcony thing that we got put up in, and watched the whole show. It was probably a little over 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Wasn't Theo there?
Can I build?
Yes.
Jesus,
build.
Tim.
Build.
So, I don't remember. I feel bad. I don't remember the name of the 2 comedians that were on first.
Yeah.
Right. And they were decent. You know,
was
so
one of them Shane
good.
Gillis?
Dude, can I build? Stop it.
Well, you said
Why?
you didn't know. You said you didn't know. I'm trying to help you out.
I know those people.
Oh,
These
okay.
are like people you wouldn't recognize their names.
Yeah.
I know comedy. I'm a big fan of comedy. I've watched it all the time.
Yeah.
Like anytime a new special comes on of a comedian, even if I don't know who it is, I'll watch it. Like, I love comedy. it tugs at me in a good way. But the first person I knew that came on was Tom Saragusa.
Tom.
You know Bert and Tom, Two Bears, One Cave? Tom Saragusa?
Yep.
Yeah, so he was first.
I've been listening to those guys a little more.
They're funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yep.
And then Shane Gillis. And then Joe Rogan. And then some other guy named Joe that just moved down to Austin. They let him close it. He was pretty good, but he wasn't as good as the other ones. But I was just like, everyone after another, it's just like, oh my God.
It's a monster lineup.
I know. How did we get so lucky? And then when the whole sets were over with, Joe came out and shook everybody's hand, said hi and whatnot, and said, hey, we're still performing back in this other little private room here if you guys want to come back and watch that. And they did. I'm going to butcher the name. It's something like a joke in a barrel or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that
Is
they
this
were
a
doing
Tony
that
thing? Like,
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And they were doing that, and we walked back in there, and Theo's back there doing that. And then Theo did it, Hinchcliffe did it, another guy, I've drawn a blank on his name. I don't think it's Red Band, but it might be. And then Joe, and they finished that out. And then when that was over, he came back and talked to us for a little bit, and then he's like, they got a whole nother set, so he had to take off. But then we went to the car and drove. We had to drive Cody's wife home. Samantha dropped her off with her bow and stuff, and then we drove to the ranch. She was coming back later with the kids over the weekend. And we got into the ranch at 3-ish in the morning. And 3:30, all situated, went to sleep for 2 hours, got up, put my gear on, drank a cup of coffee, went and sat in the blind, and let this be a lesson to you, children. Don't ever miss a day. If you're tired, whatever, you don't want to get up, just get up. Because I sat there was deer in front of me before the freaking sun came up. And I shot my biggest buck of the trip at 7:30 that morning. And then I shot.
What was daybreak?
First
light.
7, like 6:45. It was. No, I don't even think it was 7:30. It was probably like 7:15.
Were you watching him for long?
Yeah. He came running across the field, and there's a field over here and brush line over here, and once they hit that opening, they tend to run toward because they're in the open at that point. And trying to get a position right that you could feel good about the shot at, and I'm looking at him, and there's a deer you're not supposed to shoot, right? So, and you're trying to size them up and whatnot, and go, oh, guys, is this old enough? Like, I'm getting better at aging deer. I'm still not great at it. Every time I would send Cody a picture of a deer and ask him if it's old enough or whatnot, I would assume the age myself before I would send it to him, and I was coming up about the same every time he told me how old he thought it was. So I was feeling pretty good about that. And most of the time I was sending him a picture. It was a deer that I thought was like 1 year too young, that I was hoping I was wrong.
Well, and in Texas, are the body sizes a little smaller?
Yeah, they're smaller bodied, but they're bigger racks.
Yeah.
So in any event, this deer's out there for 10, 15 minutes maneuvering and moving around, and I'm waiting for a good shot. I think I drew on him 4 times or 5 times before I actually shot him.
I've never had to do that, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like every animal I shot down there, I drew multiple times. Like I never drew back one time and laid it on, and it was always, shit, he moved again, set it down, wait. Anyway, I put it through him, and he ran off, and he stopped and locked his legs up and stood there for a bit, and then like put his head down and slowly walked into the brush the shortest distance he could from where he was standing, which I was shocked because I could see the hole in him and see blood pouring out of him.
So what did you shoot him with?
How's he still alive? Both of these deer I shot with a Grim Reaper razor tip whitetail special, and I regret that I didn't have a different broadhead at that point because this was all like, dude, I was trying to record, right? I didn't grab my camera. I had like the arrows that were already in my quiver, and I hadn't gone through and picked out any broadheads or anything. They were what was left over in my quiver from when I was in Mexico. Like I haven't even shot my bow since then. Didn't do nothing. Threw all my crap on and took off. Like 2 hours, just 2 hours of sleep. Get up, grab your shit, and let's go. And shot him. He lowers his head and slowly walks off into the brush. And like I said, I can see the hole in him. I was like, he's dead. He's not going very far. But so I'm sitting there for a little bit, and things are still things are still winding back up. More deer start coming back in. Like they all ran off when he ran off, and then he walked out, and then some deer started coming back, and then there was one target buck that Cody showed me pictures of, like either that morning or that night when we got there. Can't remember which it was, and sure as shit, here he comes. I'm just like, what? And so it's like 30 minutes later, max, right? Maybe 20. Like, not, I was to the point, I'm like, all right, at what point do I get out of the blind and go look for this deer? Or are you supposed to just stay in the blind until you're done hunting and shoot another deer? And I wasn't sure. This is not a conversation we had because we just got there, right? And so I'm like texting Dan from the blind. I was like, hey, I texted him. I was like, so the rule of the ranch is there's a fee if they're over 150, right? And I texted Dan. I was like, I think I owe the fee. And he was like, thumbs up, right? And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, hey, that big ape just walked in here. Am I supposed to shoot him too? Question mark. And then nothing. Like, and he's just posed perfectly, not being twitchy, not nothing, just mowing away, quartering away, shoulder forward, not a care in the world. And I'm just like looking at my phone. I'm like,
yeah, waiting for it to come back.
Come on, dude. Tell me, can I shoot this deer? Because once again, I haven't discussed a protocol. I don't know what the rules are. I just know that your deer are supposed to be mature deer, which is 5 and older. And there's, a couple different deer that you cannot shoot because they're only for the family members. Because this is basically just a family ranch that they let some friends come to.
Yeah, and you're a guest on their ranch.
I'm a guest, and I don't want to screw it up and risk never getting invited back again.
You don't want to roll up in there sluicing everything.
No, and I'm just like, well, I'm looking at this like, is this normal?
Yeah.
And that buck was a 155-inch buck.
The first one? Or
the first one.
Okay.
The first one, 155-inch buck, first morning, not even here for an hour, whack, right? And it's like, well, that was quick.
Was he 5x5 or what was he?
He has a 5x5 with 2 kickers.
So he's a 6x6?
Depends on how you want to call it.
Could you hang a ring off
first of all, it's a 10-point.
12
not a 5x5.
It'd be a 12
It's in Texas.
point.
So he could technically be a 12-point.
Could you hang a ring on it?
But yeah. So yeah, okay, fine. Call it 12-point.
12
whatever.
point. 12-pointer.
I've got pictures. I haven't posted them yet, but I want to actually try to make more of a meaningful post and all that. So I've been holding off. I have a hard time doing that from my phone. I need to sit down and write something. But in any event, and I'm waiting for a response back. That deer's in there for like 10 minutes. No response back. No response back. Deer coming back in, right? And then he moves and starts walking off, and I'm like, oh shit. And then my phone beeps, not beeps or vibrates. And my question was, am I supposed to shoot him too? And the answer was definitely. And I get that text, and I'm like, God damn it. And I look up, and he stops, and he turns around, and he comes back in.
Jeez,
so I pick up my bow, get everything situated. He presents, it gives me a good shot, draw back, and just sluice him, and he rocket ships to the exact same spot the other deer just walked in.
No way.
No way, right? And so I'm like, all right, I'm not sitting here anymore. I'm going to get up and try to walk the other trail that deer went on before he got into the brush, because I don't want a third freaking blood trail on the ground here. And for I know it sounds greedy, but I would strongly encourage people to not do this. Do that. Don't shoot 2 animals. They ran into the same spot. So I follow the one track down, find my arrow. Both of them clean pass-throughs, same broadheads, both arrows. Clean pass-throughs, arrows 15, 20 yards away past them.
How far of a shot?
25 yards. 25, 28, 30, somewhere in there.
Top pin situation or just?
Oh, no, I was sitting on like 25, 28.
Okay.
Shot through both of them. And like I said, the arrows went way beyond. So good penetration. It's a 2-inch cutting diameter broadhead. Right? And I'm shooting 70 pounds, and I was shooting the Easton 5.0s, so like 410, 420 grain setup. And just sailed right through, and probably would have went through another deer behind it. It went so far. So I get out. I go find the first arrow. Try to find where I think he walked into the brush, because it's dirt. And you cannot see blood in dirt. And go over and go into the grass, and here we go. Here's blood. Stick my arrow straight up in the ground. Try to follow it back to where he was standing in the field, and I found the spot he was standing at and the blood in the field. So I'm like, all right, this looks good. He's probably fine. He's probably done. And they're like, all right, well, I better go back and find the other arrow and stick it into the trail and go find the trail he went in on. And these 2 trails meet like 5 yards in, and they go the same direction for a while. I'm like, son of a bitch. And sure enough, they ran right over the same spot of each other. And I'm following it, and the whole time I'm kind of looking off on any trail that comes off, going, there's no way these deer ran to the exact same spot. At some point, they're going to separate, just logically speaking. And I kept looking, and I couldn't find ones. But I'm following a blatantly obvious blood trail. Like, it's not like, where is it? Where is it? It's like, there it is, there it is, there it is, there it is, there it is. And it's a combination of dirt and grass and cactus, like cactus is tall, and then brush that's over your head. It was a little more open there than I was expecting, but most of it's like everything's pokey, everything scratches you, everything sticks to you. You're pulling crap out of your hands like 2 days later that you didn't know was there. It is an unpleasant environment from a leisurely hike kind of standpoint. But anyway, follow the trail. He went about a total of 100 yards and come up on him, and there's the 8-point. Like, all right, well, I found him. But I can't drag him out of here because I have to leave this trail because I got to figure out where the hell the other deer went from it. And this is like 8 o'clock now, right? So I've been hunting for an hour and a half, right? I got 2 monster bucks on the ground. That 8-point is a 145-inch 8-point.
Wow,
That's a big 8-point.
Yeah,
it's a big 8-point. Yeah, big, heavy. Everything about him would have made a monster buck. If it would have been a 10, he'd have been 160 inches.
Hey, let me see the pictures while you're telling your story.
Sure. Hang on.
Yeah, 145 for an 8's really big.
Hold on. I'll find it. Give me a second.
Yep. Did they have mass?
Some fill. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, do some fill talk there, Timmy. Let me find these real quick.
Yeah,
I reorganized my phone, so I forget where crap is now. So
I think if a person wants to go get some reps with animals, Texas is a great spot to do it.
Well, especially if you can find a place that does like management hunts.
Right.
Because if you don't understand or know what Texas is a lot of these ranches have a certain number of, that's your 8-point there, a certain number of deer they have to kill every year, right? And there's a decent amount of people that will sell hunts that are for smaller deer or deer that they deem need to be removed from the gene pool. Like they don't have the right genetics to grow the biggest deer.
That's a freaking beautiful 8-point.
Yeah, it's a hog.
Pretty chocolate horns too.
Yeah, they were both very chocolatey.
Surprising to me.
Anyway, they'll typically offer a relatively cheap hunt with the opportunity to possibly kill up to like 10 deer while you're there.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to argue with that kind of trigger time because nothing's going to simulate trying to sorry, I have a little bit of cough from the trip there. Trying to simulate shooting an animal like shooting an animal. Like nothing does that. What happens to your heart rate? What happens to your reaction? What happens to everything about it?
It's beautimous.
Yeah. So I really, really strongly encourage people to do that kind of hunt. And there's a couple of places out there that I know that do that. And it's not that expensive. Like if you're doing a management deer hunt, I mean, don't get me wrong, you're not going to go in and shoot a 150 or 160 inch buck, but you're going to shoot a reasonable deer that needs to be cleaned out of the pool, and you're probably going to have the opportunity to shoot 3, 4, 5 plus deer while you're there and get that experience.
Which is huge for experience.
It's huge. Yeah. Like you can't replace that. I mean, the only place that would be better, like my buddy Ray would say, is go to South Africa.
Yeah.
And hunt plains game because you can get so many opportunities to shoot for a reasonable amount of money.
Well, it's a little bigger ticket too.
Yeah, but your airfare is going to be a lot more though.
Yeah.
Like you can fly to San Antonio
and you're
for
talking about
$300 round trip.
25, 30 hours of fly time.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's a long deal.
Sounds terrible. You don't like flying? Think about flying to South Africa.
I'm getting pretty damn comfortable with it anymore. It doesn't seem to bother me at all anymore, which I think I told you last year when we went to San Antonio. I was like, I'll get used to it. I just stopped flying for such a long time that I was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I had the last 2 flights I had were bad experiences up till not taking it for a while. Yeah. You can open her up and throw some more wood in there. It's getting chillier. Anyway, so I go back. I work every trail off of it, or I thought I worked every trail off of it, trying to figure out where the other one left the trail at, and I couldn't figure it out. So I looked for probably like an hour because I'm expecting Dan and Riley, his nephew, who's his cameraman right now, to come back and pick me up around 9:30. That's about when I'm expecting them to show up. So from like 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I just start wandering trails trying to find blood crossing somewhere. And I ended up following this one trail probably 100 yards to 150 yards to where I popped out by the fence on the other side of the blind and I had no idea I was going that way. Like it's hard to find a sense of direction in that stuff. I can totally see if you got in that high crap, how easily you would get lost if you don't have Onyx. So after that, I turned my Onyx on and walked the blood trail again, looking for tracks off of it so I could at least see where I'd been.
Which is a really good way to find deer or animals, by the way, because
grid.
in the midst of doing your walking, you don't really know, I swerved here, but you can zoom out and be like, oh, he's going this direction, or maybe he was going to this creek or this feature, and you can kind of zoom out and see what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went back to the deer that I'd found and said, all right, I'm going to drag them out to the field because they're going to be here in like a half hour, and I at least want to have that done. So I drug like 10 yards back on the trail and then cut through the brush to get back out to the field so I wasn't screwing up the blood trail. I went beyond him first. I was like, because the other deer that I couldn't find yet, I had shot first. So it's possible he ran farther down the same trail trying to find blood. I went like 15, 20 yards past that, couldn't find blood anywhere. So drug him back, got him back to the field, and looked at the clock and was like, all right, they're going to be here any minute. And Dan had just texted me and said, we're on our way. So waited for them to pull in and then said, all right, here's what happened. Here's where I'm at. Here's where he went. Now there's some spots where their blood was sprayed really far. So it looked like, did a deer go that way? Because it's like 4 feet over there. But you can tell it's like blood, like a spray. So I was like, there's a chance he went that way, but I went that way a ways and couldn't find nothing. And then I'm just looking through here at what's the path of least resistance. And the trail I took that I ended up on the fence line, I didn't see another trail that was just to the left of that one that was to the right of the main trail that had the blood on it that I hadn't walked down. So I ended up going down that, and 10 yards down there, found blood. Like, oh, here's where he left. And 3 minutes later, I'm following it. I'm standing up and looking at it and going, there it is. And then Riley goes, well, isn't that him right there? And sure shit, there he is sitting right there. I walked by him 4 times, at least, looking for blood. So, and he didn't, combined, he went farther, but he wasn't as far in the brush because he ran out into the field and then came back. So I think one probably went 100 yards, one probably went 120 yards.
Yeah, it's a death run. They could go 60, they could go 180 or 200.
Yeah. So killer first morning. I had almost 300 inches of antler in the first morning. I'm just like, and literally I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, I think, so one of the things that Dan does in those videos is he has Cody, which he does a phenomenal job, do like a little autopsy report and what broadhead they used and what it did and how impressed were they and how far did it go beyond it and whatnot. He does a really good job of it. I don't know if you ever watched them, but they're really good.
Who's those?
Cody's the ranch guy.
Oh, yes.
The guy who's, so his wife's dad owns the ranch.
Okay.
So, but he does he has a ranch management degree. He doesn't use it. He has a different job, but he has a ranch management degree and did work on a ranch for game management and growing deer and whatnot for a portion of his life. Really cool dude. Had a great time with him. And, they like going to tack. So we'll probably see him at a tack or two or that sort of thing. Great guys. The whole thing was just phenomenal. So I'm drawing a blank on the nickname for a second. Sawed Off, yeah, is a shorter fella. I'll call him Sawed Off. Is hilarious, dude. I spent a ton of time with him. He actually sent me a nice message after we left because we all busted out of there in the morning. He had to get going somewhere, and we had to get to the airport.
Right.
Didn't get a chance to say goodbye. Really great folks. Had a great time. Met the dad. Good dude. Gave him a little lesson. Changed a couple things on his bow, and his groups tightened right up, and he was all excited. Anyway, get back, and I'm like, okay, I'll do whatever you guys want because I didn't expect this at all. So if like you want to send me to some shit spot where you need does killed, send me there. Don't care. I'll do whatever. Just send me wherever you want. But we got to the ranch, like I said, at 3 a.m. We hadn't got food yet, and Cody was working, and he was hoping to get back by like 2. And I'm like, well, this is stupid. Make me a grocery list. I'll go to town. We got chores to do in the middle of the day. We got to go fill feeders, put up a couple blinds. I brought a couple of the gray light blinds down with me. I say that back. I shipped them down earlier to Cody and got to put a couple up because there were a couple spots that didn't have blinds in them. and make sure a couple of feeders were full. They got feeders on the front of the truck, so you can like push a button in the truck and it sprays out feed. So if you pull into some place and want to just get a little extra corn on it, you can. Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But do all our chores, get back. Cody's got a grocery list, and he had to take off for running to work. And so like, all right, well, I'll drive to town. I was like, just send me, because I was like, what's the address of the ranch? He's like, yeah, you'll end up in BFE. I'll send you a pin, and I'll send you a link to what grocery store to go to. So I jumped in his truck, not his work truck, but his other truck, and drove an hour to town and filled up a shopping cart full of food.
So it was out there on its own.
Oh yeah, it's out. Yeah. It's out in the sticks. Most of those are. Most of them aren't close to towns.
That's cool.
But yeah, it was like it was probably just under an hour to get to the nearest town that had a HBE grocery store. Went in there, and I was there for like 2 hours getting the whole grocery list, because it's for everybody that's there for 5 days, and he's got family and friends coming on the weekend. Which is why he was trying to go to the store. I was like, no, I just shot 300 inches of antler. I'll go do whatever the fuck you want right now. I don't care. It's like, give me the grocery list. You go to work, and if you get a chance to hunt in the evening, do it. I'll run to the store. Don't worry about it. Well, I got back at like 5:30, and he had just gotten back from work. So we put all the groceries away, started making dinner, and on goes the hunt, right? And then the next couple of sits were relatively uneventful. I saw more deer than anybody the whole time. Like, I don't know what, I had a magic spoon or a magic horseshoe up my butt or what, but I saw so many bucks, so many deer I wasn't allowed to shoot because they just weren't old enough, but they were huge. Like, I just 150-inch 3-points, and I saw like almost every buck that they were bragging about that needed to live. Well, I saw almost every one of them. Just unbelievable. And
they wanted them to live for genetics. Pass them forward.
They're not old. They're not even old enough to shoot yet.
Right.
They haven't hit their peak.
Want them to breed on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's what deer management's about. Like, that's how they do things down there. And I'm really starting to understand it better and have a better biology understanding of what's going on to that. And did you know there's certain places where they fly around and catch all the does and put them in a fenced area and catch their main 3 stud bucks and put them in that fenced area, so they're the only ones breeding the does.
That doesn't surprise me.
And then they let them out, right? But ensure that those bucks are the ones that get to breed the does, right? And then they tag all the does and tag their fawns, and then whichever does, because a doe can produce poorly too, right? It's not necessarily just the buck that determines the big genetics, right? So and then they mark those does and figure out which ones produce crap fawns. And then the ones that produce crap fawns, they kill those does. Those are the cold does.
What do you think the buck to doe ratio was down there?
1-to-1.
Isn't it so different when it's 1-to-1? How animals behave, how the whole herd interacts. Yeah. Like, it's just different.
Yeah. So Dan shot a couple bucks. There was this 9-point buck that I saw multiple times that I kept sending pictures to Cody, and I'm like, hey, is this buck old enough? Because it looked like a deer. It'd be a deer you'd want shot if it was at least 5, right? Because it's like, hey, he's probably never going to produce into the 160s to 180s, or to 200s, depending. Like a trophy down there, like a real trophy, is a minimum 160-inch buck. They've killed several that have gone in close to 180. They haven't produced a 200-inch deer down there yet. So in any event, multiple times I sent him pictures, and he goes, nope. He goes, no, you can't shoot that one. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, Sawed Off ended up killing a nice big 8-point that was smaller than mine, but still a big 8-point, big mature 8-point. Dan ended up shooting that deer. So that one that I asked multiple times, can I shoot this deer? And Dan goes, oh, he's 5 easy. Yeah. And it actually ended up being 5.5.
Oh, really?
He always ages them by their teeth.
Yeah.
So Cody was wrong, and he was old enough, so it worked out. But and I think that was the biggest buck he shot down there. But Cody was after 160+ inch 10-point, and he got it the second to last day. So we actually saw like a monster buck on the ground, which was cool.
What was he?
Was
he a typical?
Yeah, typical 10.
Yeah.
Typical 10, just a monster. If he had one of his eye guards broke off, but they were short, it would have been 163 or 164 if both eye guards were there. Somewhere around there. But we scored all of them, or Cody officially scored all of them the last night before we went home. But so one night, and I'll tell this story because failure in hunting is real, and I'm not going to run away from it or pretend like it didn't happen. Second to last night, same night, sawed off, shot his 4-point, or his 8-point, excuse me. I'll get that right at one of these points. The majority of the world calls them 8 points, so I'm trying to call them what the majority of the world calls them instead of what us people in the Pacific Northwest call them. There was this monster 12 wide, like not exaggerating, 28 inches wide. I got pictures of them, but not tall tines, right? He wouldn't score great, but just an old buck, super wide, right? And we had put out a new blind because the wind was changing, and most of the blinds are set up for the wind coming one direction. So we went and threw out 2 more blinds in new spots a day and a half before, brushed them in real good, or a day before. Brushed them in real good for when the wind was going the other way. There'd be more places to sit because on the weekend we had 6 people hunting, I want to say. So we needed, and it was on the weekend that wind was switching for one day. And one of them was a gray light blind that I brought down. So I ended up sitting in that one, in the one they called bow tie. I had it all brushed in real thoroughly, and the deer didn't act skittish at all, which I was really impressed. That's got a different camo on it that blends really super good. So I don't know if that's why it did so good. But they didn't act like it was there. And normally it takes deer 3 or 4 days to get comfortable with the fact that a blind was there. Didn't bug them at all. So, and like the feeder goes off and like a half hour goes by and I can see all the deer out in this field. So there's like the feeder, it's all dirt, right? And then this big old brush strip that's behind it. And then on the other side of that's a field with like 100 yards in between. The next brush strip, right? And they're all mingling around out there because there's greens in it to eat. Eventually, one doe comes in. They keep looking in a lot, and eventually one doe comes in, starts eating, and as soon as that happens, they all just converge on it, right? And there's a 150-inch, 3.5-year-old 10-point in there that I'm taking pictures of and sending it to Cody, which I know I can't shoot it, but whenever I see one, I like to just send him the pictures, right?
Yeah, it's like having a trail cam.
Yeah, it's like having a trail cam. And my question isn't, can I shoot it? It's my question, how old do you think that deer is? Because I'm really trying to learn it, right? And he gave me age. He said it's young. It's like, that's what I thought. I figured it was about 3. Just looking off the body, because I'm starting to learn the characteristics of what they look like as they get older. And out of the corner of my eye, here comes a buck that pushes that buck off. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like I freak out because it's like this. It's like, what the fuck is that? And he comes in, pushes that deer off, and goes into the brush. And I'm just like, holy crap! Well, I'll never see him again. And like 7 minutes goes by, and I see his horns in the brush, and out he comes right to the feeder. And I've got my phone on. I'm trying to get the camera up as fast as I can. I'm just like, and because frequently they're moving so much, you've got to get, in order to really age that deer well, you got to get a picture of their face and their neck and their chest when it's upright and they're eating, so their head's down, right? It's really hard to tell how old a deer is like that, but you got to get like the visual of this and their face to be able to tell really well how old they are. And so it took a bit for him to actually be standing like that. So there's like 3 or 4 minutes where he's out in front of me where he was never standing like that. And I'm freaking out. Like I like wide bucks. Like it's a big deal to me. I don't know what it is. It's probably like them heavies.
Everyone's got a thing, man.
I get all worked up, right?
Everyone's got a thing.
And I'm looking at this deer and I'm going, that deer's old. I know that deer's old. Like I know, as long as this isn't like something that's off limits, I think I can actually shoot this deer. And I send him a picture of it and send it off to him. And he goes, and his message back is, how many points? And I says 12. And he goes, shoot. Like, and then my heart just started going. I'm like, frick! This is like the second time this year that I freaked out mentally. Like, really, like it got to me. Like I don't know. I gotta have a session with Joel. Like I really do, because there's just something happening that I'm starting to freak out before I actually shoot. Because I didn't think for a second I could shoot that deer. Like I was like, this thing's way too big. This has to be like one of the ones that goes to the family. Like there's no way I can shoot this deer. And when he told me to shoot, so when we set up this blind, we were out of chairs. Like we have no more blind chairs, but they've got like 4 or 5 computer desk chairs sitting back in the corner. So we throw a computer desk chair in there, not thinking about it at all. It's too fucking tall. Like in order for me to shoot, I've got to like crunch down and lean forward to even see out of the window to see the animal, right? And so once he got to that, I had set my sight for 20 yards because I had, before we put the blind out, standing there with a rangefinder and ranging it was like 21, 22 yards where we were trying to put the blind to the feeder. Like, all right, well, set it here. And then I just wheeled it to the top and didn't think twice about it. So at 20. Ended up drawing back on him no less than 6 times. Like every time I would draw back. So there's a pipe coming down that's right by his vitals. And he'd take a step forward to where you'd clear the pipe. And I'd draw back. And he'd sit there for about 2 seconds. And then he'd turn towards me and start mowing again over here. And oh God, by the time I drew back the 6th time, I was like everything's shaky. Like I'm getting really fatigued. But my brain's like, it's 20 yards. What are you worried about?
Right.
Well, it's by where he's standing is actually more like 25 to 26, which isn't that much different. But I'm feeling like a little overly confident with what I'm trying to do. And I've watched like Dan, like 2 days prior, shot at a cull buck at like 35 yards, got it on film, put an X on the screen where his arrow was, and that buck ducked completely under his arrow. At 35 yards, like completely, and he's shooting fast.
Was his head down, that buck?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems to have a lot to do with how far and how fast they can drop when their head's down.
Oh, it's wild how far, and got it all, and you can literally see the little lighted knock just go, like missed him by a quarter of an inch. Like he just barely got down enough. But anyway, so I had that video fresh in my mind, and I was like, I'm aiming at his heart. Like I'm gonna shoot him right in the freaking heart because he's gonna duck, and I'm gonna be in the lungs if he does. Because he's so close to me, and this buck's old. Like, he's smart. Like, you don't get that big down there with the rack like that without being smart. Like, I guess nobody had ever gotten a shot at that deer in his life.
Wow.
And the thing's standing in front of me, right? Didn't know that at the time. But, so by the time I got drawn back the 6th time, and now he's quartering, it looks like he's quartering away, opposite leg forward, clear in the feeder, and I went up to him and freaking just slammed it. And like put it right on his heart and just because I was already shaking, right? And I thought it was done. Like I was like, oh, he's wasted. This is perfect. Oh my God, how could this hunt get any better? This is unbelievable, right? And it's an hour and a half till dark. Like I got tons of daylight. I got the sun shining. Like this is going to be great. So I literally get out of my blind after like 5 minutes and start looking around. The first thing I see is a white chunk of skin and hair on the ground. I'm like, oh shit, that was too low. It's the first thing my brain goes. So now I'm like playing it back and I'm like, okay, I stand where he's standing. I turn around and range the blind and it's 25 yards. I'm like, uh-oh. So if you're aiming at the heart and you hit an inch or two low of the heart, what's there? Nothing. If you hit a little right or a little left of the lower portion of the heart, what's there? Nothing. There's nothing to hit. But I tracked good blood. Like I figured out where he went through the brush and where he came out into the dirt. And mind you, he runs 100 yards across a dirt field, which you're not going to find blood in.
What did your eyeball think? Like you saw the arrow fly.
I didn't see the arrow.
Okay.
I legit did not see the arrow. I know where the pin was when it went off. And I said, even if I made a terrible shot, I didn't miss by more than an inch at this distance, maybe an inch and a half.
Did you have lead to knock?
No. I was in such a hurry with this crap, and I got the arrows so late, I didn't want to go through and pull them all out and change them. And I was more concerned that my knock fit wasn't going to fit.
Right.
And have to reserve it, put a new loop on it, retune the bow. And like, nope, just run stock. I don't have time for this. In hindsight, I wish I did. And I would have recorded it, but we pulled my memory card out because I'd shot a javelina. I shot 3 javelina when I was down there. I shot a javelina on film. It's the first animal I've recorded on film hunting. And I actually got excited about it. I was like, that was really cool because you got everything perfect and whatnot. It was all laid out really good. And I was like, well, that was kind of fun. And oh my God, it was so much harder. Like, okay, you're running the camera yourself, readjust where it's pointed at.
Yeah, totally.
And then try to get back and drawn, and then the animal's moving. It's like, what a nightmare. Hindsight, and I'd pulled my memory card out of the camera to put it on the computer and show everybody, and I forgot to put the memory card back in the camera. So I brought my camera and everything out there with no memory card in it. And my backup memory cards are not in my hunting pack. They're in the other pack. So I couldn't record it. And honestly, if he'd have said shoot and I'd had it all there, the ability to record it, I might not have done it. But I don't fucking care. I don't want to screw this up. Because I'll never shoot a deer that wide in my life, ever. Anyway, shoot him, finding blood, and I'm finding reasonably good blood. But it's not the right shade, it's not, but it's consistent and frequent. I followed his tracks across the field because, I mean, I took one look and said, okay, he's standing right here. And I looked across the direction I think he ran, and I could see the ground soft. It rained hard for over a day, and we lost the ability to drive to 2/3 of everything because you can't drive in that crap. You get stuck.
Turns into clay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the tires get full and it's just slicks. So we ended up being stuck on like 2 places or 3 places for a day and a half because you couldn't drive anywhere else. But in any event, go all the way across that. That ground was still pretty soft and wet, but I could literally look and say, well, that looks like his tracks. And you'd look at the buck tracks and go, that's a big buck track. And then I saw a rock in the ground. There was blood on the rock. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm on the right thing. Go all the way across, find where he went into the brush, and find some blood. So I run back and grab my bow. I set my bow on the last blood, and I got my binos in my other hand. Left my pack and crap at the blind. Go to the next blood, set my binos down, go back and get my bow, go to the next blood, set the bow down, go back and get my binos, and just leapfrog all the way up. I followed that deer for 230 yards with reasonable blood. At no point did it take me more than a minute or two to find the next blood. So I'm still feeling pretty good at this point. I could not find my arrow anywhere. I looked everywhere, couldn't find it. Didn't have it on video to go back and look and see where it went. So, all right, I get to that point, and it's now to the point that it's dark, and I can't see very well. So I spent like the last 5 or 10 minutes before it got dark just wandering around looking, because I'm like, all right, I found 2 spots where there was good piles of blood. Like, all right, he's standing here, right? He stopped, he stood here, and he bled on the ground. And it kept bleeding. And then he moved again, stopped, stood there again, kept bleeding. Like, okay. So to me, this is promising. Still looks good. And then I couldn't find it past then. So, and I losing light and like, all right, I got to get back out to the road and figure out the best path to get here because I'm going away from the road, going away from the blind, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I got to get back out to the road because I'm expecting a pickup here. So, mark on my Onyx, recorded my whole path on Onyx and marked where I found the last blood, and then went through the nasty shit and pokies and shit everywhere all over me, scratched my ears, scratched my face. Get all the way back out to the road, set my bow down, texting Riley because he was picking me up. I'm like, hey, where you at? He's like, just leaving now. So I knew he was a ways away. So I walked back to the blind, got my stuff, and then walked back to the road, walked to the main. Right as I got to the main, he was pulling up the road. Jumped in there, drove back to the house. I had been texting Cody back and forth. Hey, I'm not sure. I've been following blood, but I'm 220 yards. Blood looks consistent, but it's darker. It's not. It's definitely not lung blood, lung or heart, for sure. And my brain's going, okay, well, what did you hit then? Logically, I'm like, maybe I got lucky, which this would traditionally be unlucky, and hit way to the right of where I was aiming and hit the liver, because you'll get that tinge color like that out of the liver, totally. Right? So back of my brain's like, maybe I hit liver, because the amount of blood I'm seeing, I did not think I would see from a meat cut, right? For just hitting meat with no organs. It seemed like way too much blood for that. So I still felt pretty good about it. Get back to the house, and Sawed Off had shot 2 deer. He shot the deer that Dan missed, and then shot that 8-point, and they lost blood on the 8-point. So Sawed Off was like, well, I'll pay for a dog because you can call a guy with a dog and he'll find it, right? And I'm like, well, if we're calling in a dog, I guess I'll pay for one too. If you're coming anyway, so we'll just wait for a dog. And while we were waiting for a guy to show up, we went back to mine. All right, take that back. They went to Sawed Off's first, couldn't find it. There were 3 of them looking for it, couldn't find the blood to where he went to the next spot, right? And so they backed out and said, we're calling a dog. And then they drove back, picked me up while they're waiting for the dog guy. And we got to where mine was for 10 minutes, and the dog guy calls and he's on his way. And we have like enough time to get back, get down to the gate and let him in. So we only spent like 10 more minutes looking for my deer. In that time period, we found more blood farther down the path than I could find. Right? So I'm like, all right, well, we're still finding blood, and we know the direction he's going. He's still on this main trail that he's never left. Like the most beat up trail through this whole thing. He's on it. He hasn't left it. All right. So I'm still feeling relatively good because I had gotten to where I couldn't figure out if he went down the trail or not. But I'd lost light. Mm-hmm. So come back. We're there for 10 whole minutes. We had to go through all that shit and then turn around and go right back out that shit, get back in the truck, drive, and go get the dog guys. And then the dog guys go out to sawed off deer first because he described both situations to him and said, let's go get that one first because they felt better about it. Like, all right, whatever. So I waited at the house, at the ranch house, because they can only fit so many people in the trucks. They go get sawed off's buck, said, all right, it's your turn. And I've been getting talked up about this process. Like, I've never had a dog, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm feeling really good about this. It's like, even if he's not dead, they're going to find him and they're going to put him into a corner if he gets fatigued because they're going to run him and he's going to bleed out. Like, okay, cool. That sounds great because I'm still really excited about this buck, but I was pretty convinced the buck's dead and he's not too much farther than wherever I was. But get in there and they want to go to the trail where he enters into the brush, 100 yards from where I'd stopped or 120 yards from where I'd stopped, somewhere around there. So they let the dogs go and the dogs are following and following, and they start barking when they find a deer, right? And they start barking, and then they just start taking off like crazy. Like, okay, that deer's still alive, and that deer's moving. And run. And they ran for over a mile. I'm like, well, fuck, he's not going to die if that's the case. So they call the dog off. I think he went over a mile running. And then they go back to where he started from again, and him and I walked the trail and took him to the last blood. And within like 10 yards of the last blood, the dogs take a hard 90. And that deer had not moved off of that trail. So it seemed odd to me that that's right? But the color of the blood isn't right. So it's like, okay, it would either be liver or just like tissue damage. So I can get where an average guy looking at it would be just like this probably isn't great. But so that's the only thing that really bugged me about the whole situation is because they took like a hard 90 and then wandered all over the place following a deer. And in my brain, it's like, well, did they find a different deer? And that's the deer they ran? Because I have a hard time believing a deer that lost as much blood as I saw that got shot could run like that and not like sit at some point.
Sure.
Like they ran that deer well over a mile. Like that seems nuts. I was like feeling really good about it, and then I got really sick really quick, like really down, depressed, and sick. And we went back through again, and we walked the trail the dogs went on for 400 yards, and I could not find a speck of blood on them. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, my brain still thinks they got off his trail, but I don't know. I believe the way they function and they work is they're following the scent of that deer, not just a deer. Because they're smelling the blood, right?
Right, it's the blood, right?
It's the blood. So it's like, well, that logically would be it. And maybe I just don't want to believe it. And ironically, Cody shot his deer probably the same as I shot the one I lost, and he had one blade slice the side of the heart. He almost lost him. He hit him low and managed to get him. Mega Meat saved his life because it was big enough and wide enough, and it just nicked it with the blade. Like you pull the heart out, and there's like one little slice in the side of it, like bare. Like if that broadhead rotated like whatever 20%, would have missed.
Yeah,
it's wild. So in any event, I didn't get that buck, and I was just sick to my stomach about it. Really, because it's a close shot. How do you fuck that up? You overthink it. Is really what it boils down to. And once again, just put it in the middle and stop trying to be like the times that the same thing with the big mule deer that I shot that went a ways. I was trying to be too overconfident about it. I'm going to put it right in his heart. Like, no, don't do that. Put it mid body, behind the shoulder, highest percentage of likelihood of a good hit, right? A vital hit. Maybe not the fastest killing hit, but the most effective killing hit. So, and they've got a ranch hand that's down there all the time, and they've got cameras everywhere, and I'm optimistic that he'll pop back up on camera, and I'll see that he's still alive.
Yeah, to be curious if there's a resolution.
Or the ranch hand will find him dead, and I can still at least get his rack. Because I was really taken back by that. I was just really blown away. And hunted the rest of the days we had to hunt. I only missed 2 sits. I missed one because I volunteered to go to the store because I just killed 2 bucks, and I was like, "Hey guys, go where you won't feel as best, and I'll go get the food so we don't, So hopefully Cody gets a chance to hunt too, because yes, it's his ranch and we're his guests, but it's like you got to hunt too,
right? Yeah.
Right. So it made sense to me to make that decision and do that. And then I did not hunt the last morning because Dan was absolutely hunting the last morning. Sawed off could have. He originally went to bed thinking he was going to, and I was on the fence of whether or not I should because we had to leave at like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And when the animals come in, it's like 7 to 7:30. That's typically the window, the main activity window. And it's like, if more than one of us shoots a deer, we're fucked. Like, there's no way we're cleaning out, gunning out, getting him in the cooler, and then the next guys who come in the next weekend can take care of it or whatnot, trying to figure that out. And that's assuming you make a perfect shot.
Right.
Like something doesn't go awry. You're just leaving with a wounded deer. What are you doing? So I just went, no, I'm not doing it. And then I won't rush, and I'll actually sleep a little longer because we can get up at 5:30 and go to bed at like 10:30, 11. Not and short sleeping. Maybe taking a nap in the middle of the day where you're not really sleeping, trying to catch up. So I opted to not, so I wouldn't rush. We panicked because I decided I was going to bring back deer meat. The second to last day in the middle of the day where everybody else was resting and caping out deer and whatnot, I drove back to town again, bought a cooler, bought a tote to put the horns in, and a couple other things, battery for my scale so I could weigh things when my battery on my scale died when I was in Austin, because I do travel with a bow scale anymore. Not because I want to know what my bow weighs, but because I can weigh my luggage and make sure it doesn't weigh 50 pounds before I get there.
That's kind of smart.
Well, I mean, I've ran into it 3 times where I was like, you need to take 2 pounds out of that bag or you're going to pay $150. Like, okay, I'm taking 2 pounds out of that bag. So if I weigh it ahead of time, I know. And then I was able to weigh the cooler that I'd bought. I bought a $25 Igloo cooler, right? Weigh it, know what it weighs, right? And weigh it, know what it weighs, and then know how much meat I could put in there. So I was able to bring back 42 pounds of deer meat, hit that 50-pound right on the dot, duct tape it shut so it can't open in travel and whatnot. And I took that to the butcher this morning. So, but I was able to bring back meat, and that took me, caping out the 2, I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to cut it at the neck and put them in the tote, right? Well, they didn't fit in the tote that way. I'd have had to skull cap them. Running out, and I'm out of time. It's like dark the night before we're leaving, and I'm like, so I left them with sawed off to take to a taxidermist by him to finish the job out and have the hides tanned. And then when I go back through that area in 3 months or 4 months or whatever, because I'll probably be back there every 2-3 months would be my guess with the stuff that's on my agenda. I'll pick them up and bring them back then. Because if you skull cap them, the antlers fit in the tote, but with the whole head they won't. So. Anyway, and Dan did end up shooting a deer that morning, and we had enough time, and everything went smoothly. But yeah, I had a great trip. I made some really good friends, I think. Hoping they feel the same way. I do that every year, and it's just an amazing place. Such a cool ranch.
That is cool. I didn't. I guess I didn't understand how rural it was. I figured you guys are kind of like on the edge of the burbs and. It kind of sprawled into farm country. I didn't know you guys were so far out.
Well, it wasn't terribly out. I think we're 10 miles from a gas station that's got a decent amount of stuff in it, and there's like a barbecue place right next to that. But an actual town that would have like a good-sized grocery store and maybe a Walmart or whatnot. Yeah. Yeah, I think they have they don't have like a Home Depot or Lowe's, but I don't know if those are maybe just not companies that are down there. They do have a farm and ranch store. And
well,
that kind of stuff,
let's wrap it up with things you would consider changing or looking at differently.
Overwhelmingly, broadhead wise, like all the different stuff we shot, the evolution broadheads with the hide and the whitetail fury did by far the best job on deer. That was the census of everything that was shot. We shot them with mega meats. We shot them with Grim Reapers. I shot a javelina with 2 different Grim Reapers because I shot 3 javelina. I shot that buck with a mega meat that I didn't get. I wanted to see a good impact on with a mega meat because I've still yet to see one because Tyler also hit his low. Cody also hit his low, so he couldn't. I still haven't seen like, hey, I want to see a pass through, and he didn't get a pass through either. Like he hit him but quartered away and hit his leg, so it didn't go all the way out. I want to see a pass through with that broadhead because I shot my deer in outside of Midland with that one, and it was just a management smaller bodied deer, and it didn't pass through. It didn't go through the shoulder. I hit the offside shoulder, but it didn't pass through. And I'm starting to question if that broadhead really can pass through, or if it's consuming so much energy. It's a nasty hole. Don't get it wrong. And why do I keep saying Tyler? Where Cody shot his, it bent all the blades. Like the blades deployed, but they were all bent and mangled, and in the just like through the brisket and hit the upside leg, so it just poked through the skin a little bit, and it just doesn't seem like that much penetration. Like, yeah, you're hitting in chest bone, brisket, and a little bit of shoulder, right? But it's still just like that much. That broadhead, I want to shoot it more in instances where I know I'm hitting stuff where you should pass through, right? And unfortunately, for all the experiences I've had with it, I've still never had a shot from anybody in my group or anything like that shot it there. But I would say the evolutions are really impressing me, and I am another step down the road of believing that the hybrid broadhead is the right broadhead to hunt with.
Yeah.
The more time goes on, the more things I see, I'm pretty convinced that that's probably the right thing.
It's kind of what my eyes gravitated towards recently. I like it in theory and the stories I've heard.
Well, I'm going to my buying show this weekend, and I'm going to find every hybrid broadhead I can and bring them in, because I really think that's probably the solution.
Yeah.
Well, the best solution out there.
Yeah.
I got some ideas for one too.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
And like we come back to this, but it all depends on what you're doing, how you're hunting, and what kind of shots you're willing to take. Like there's a wide swath of broadheads that could suit your fancy depending on what your goals are.
Sure.
But yeah, for a guy who wants to shoot through a whitetail with a 60 or 70 pound bow, a well-tuned bow, I mean, those things seem like they make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. So anything else you'd want to change, revise, modify? You mentioned the lighted Nox thing. That's kind of...
I wish I had lighted Nox, to be honest, but I also looked at it as a lot of this stuff. Like I went down there with almost 2 dozen arrows because like, you're going to shoot a crap load of deer probably. And that didn't happen, but our weather was really weird and the rain screwed some things up. And it was late for does. Like the does were like hunkering down and the bucks were in. I saw a shit ton of deer, but only so many I was allowed to shoot. And my brain went, well, do you really want to spend $300 more or $400 more on all these arrows to add lighted Nox to it? So I just didn't. I wish I did though, because I would have at least felt like I caught what happened with that buck a little better. Mm-hmm. Like maybe I see where I hit him and I don't go tracking him immediately. I'm like, okay, I just need to leave him alone, because I never found a bed ever. Like the whole way, I never found him bed down. So I don't know. But I would probably change that in hindsight. I would definitely run lighted Nox. I need to practice recording hunting, especially if I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot more challenging than I thought, and I'm definitely learning my cameras a lot better, which I have faked knowing how to operate a camera for 2 years, and I really truly have to understand how to use one. And I got I was using the 6700.
Yeah.
And I got pretty comfortable with how to adjust it and everything.
Mm-hmm. It's a great camera.
Yeah. One little caveat. I watched, and the freaking manual focus was on the lens. I touched it when I was carrying it in, didn't realize it, and I didn't know where it was. And I didn't want to move because they were in front of me, but I had a pair of javelinas making sweet love in front of me. Twice. 2 different times.
You should have shot it in slow-mo.
I know, right? That would have been hilarious.
You could have done like...
but it was all fuzzy, and I'm like, why is it fuzzy? I'm like, fuck, it's in manual focus. How do you put this stupid thing in manual focus? I don't even know.
You could have done a nature-style documentary voiceover on it.
That would have been hilarious.
That would have been really funny.
I was so bummed, because I know you can't fix out of focus, right? You can fix some light issues.
Just spin the lens till it's in focus.
I didn't even know which one of them was the focus, and it's like in front of me like this, and it's stiff. Yeah. And I'd already adjusted I'd zoomed it in so it was like appropriately sized in the frame, but I didn't this is literally how poorly I know this stuff, and I am 100% committed to getting really good with a camera.
Yeah.
Now after that, because I got to be honest, I walked away from that going, I enjoyed recording it, and so I think I'm gonna, at least if I'm in like blinds and stuff like that, to where it's not difficult to do.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to record those.
Yeah, I think the timing of that worked out perfectly, where you said you really enjoyed recording that. Is in the javelinas.
Yeah, I'm bummed I didn't catch that because that would have been hilarious.
That could be your next niche.
I shot 3 javelinas and I got 2 of them on film.
Josh, the javelina fucker recorder.
Javelina porn. It's a new deal.
Yeah. That'll be behind the paywall.
Yeah, buddy.
Anyway, that's a wrap. You know, that's pretty cool. You got to go hang out there, get some reps in the red zone. And yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it was
like
a ball. I'd definitely love to do it again.
Yeah, we're going to sign off this thing. Subscribe wherever you're listening. Leave us a review. That stuff really helps us. 2025 is going to be a great year. And it's going to be exciting. Yeah, we got a lot to share. So, yeah. Catch you on the next one.
Thanks for listening.